Oh, and during this little scene, we keep cutting back to Crazy Crow and Elvis the Illusion. He says not Elvis actually came from something real because he grew up from a shack. I grew up on a mock colonial tract. My parents worked for the entertainment industry. My manager went to Oxford, and he's trying to keep me off drugs. Oh no, it's so terrible that I grew up in an economically stable environment instead of impoverished and hungry and on drugs. Okay, this guy's dialogue is so moronic I have to switch to Superboy Prime voice to convey it properly. I want to be real. Do you know what kind of life people live out here? A laid-off, leased-out, minimum wage, no health, smoke a pack, drink a six, sick of the tube, replaced by a chain, bored with the fear life. Then freaking quit! If you want that life so much, either wait out for your contract to expire, or just stop altogether! Robin continues to try to convince Batman of the glories of rock and roll, particularly punk. I mean, wasn't there a lot of great punk coming out when you were a punk? Punk is nothing but death, and crime, and the rage of a beast. Okay, we gotta hear that again. Punk is nothing but death, and crime, and the rage of a beast. I mean, how do you even get away with writing like that? Just wow. Anyway, Crow arrives in a town and happens upon a group of teenagers who are admirers of his. What you did, man, that was so insanely cool! Yes, risking people's lives because you're an asshole is cool. No wonder I don't connect to the young people today. We hate videos too, man! That ain't music! Yeah, even though they have the music playing during them and usually require a lot more work and artistic expression, they ain't music! Suck it, smooth criminal! They tell him that a local music store refuses to carry his new album because of his criminal status. Damn you, free market! Crow proclaims, tell them there'll be no peace in this valley till they do. Weren't you just 2 seconds ago whining about how you wanted a normal life? At the mall where this music store is, we suddenly have a bizarre scene of people talking about Crow. One wishes he could get away with blowing up stuff like that. Another wants the news to talk about people losing their lifestyle, whatever that means in this case. And another is a security guard who comes off as your stereotypical old man. Whatever's bad in the cities, they send out here with all their violent music and movies. Kids today with their iPods and their M&Ms and their hula hoops and their YouTubes and their pierced I don't know whats and their Fallout 3s and their... Crow shows up at the mall and demands, you're going to order my new album and you're gonna give it to these kids free! Huh. Well, now we get to part of the truth of the matter, don't we? Purportedly, this whole thing is happening because Crow thinks he's sold out. So what exactly constitutes selling out to these people? Is it that they actually make money on their work? Because if that is the case, then I have to tell both them and anyone who believes in that. You are a frigging idiot! In real life, money makes the world go round. It's all well and good to be talking about how something should be about the art of it and not about the money, but in the real world, you need money. That nice little guitar of his that Mr. Crow uses to strum out his art and all that, yeah, you need to keep that thing in good shape, you need to clean it, you need to replace broken strings, you need food so that the muscles in your arms don't atrophy and you're incapable of lifting a guitar. That being said, of course I'm not saying one should only be about the money, but what exactly is preventing Crow from earning money and making artistically revolutionizing music? I hate to agree with the villain, but the Joker is right.
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Take artists like Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci. They tended to get paid for their work. You need money to survive in the real world. But in this comic, they're not living in the real world. They're living in a fool's paradise where they feel the need to rebel against their privileged environments because of the man or some other bullcrap. But I'm sure you're all sick of this rant by now, so let me just end it with one more logical note. If the good Mr. Crow is so incapable of simply making music and making money, why doesn't he just donate the proceeds to charitable foundations? Hate to break it to you, Guitar Hero, but there are people out there who'd trade every bit of music ever made if only they could have something to eat for a day. So you'll forgive me if I'm not feeling sympathy for your drug-addled hallucinogenic road trip. And the worst part? We're We're still not even halfway through this thing. So a riot erupts and Crow even gets shot in the arm. Batman and Robin show up with Robin trying to get Crow away to clear him of the charges since he's a total idiot in this. However, Kung Fu Girlfriend shows up and actually manages to beat up Robin. Even Batman is taken aback by this, believing that Robin let Crow get away despite his protests to the contrary. Crow and his girlfriend speed away, with Crow once again reverting to his Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs persona. They stop at a drive-in theater showing some of Not Elvis's movies, and when Kung Fu Girlfriend walks away, it's revealed that she's in on this dastardly plot. So Crow, brain trust that he is, downs a bunch of pills and alcohol at once. Jeez, who is this guy? He survives a grenade, a gunshot wound, and now pills and whiskey at once? He should be dead several times over by now. We get a quick scene where some guy finally decides to shoot his TV after we learn that he's working multiple jobs, has a wife and baby, and is basically unsatisfied with his life. Deep? Ugh, to compound our irritation, we cut to Roy Lazarus giving a press conference at a rock and roll museum that is a special display for Not Elvis. He goes on and on about rock and roll origins and blah blah blah. Thankfully, Batman and Robin arrive so that we can actually have a point to this. Batman says that he's starting to agree with Robin that Crow's not responsible for this whole mess, even though we just saw him a few pages ago inciting a fricking riot! Oh, but this is where things get really stupid, and that's saying something. Batman tells Lazarus that he lacks enough knowledge of rock and roll music to understand Crow's mission, so he's going to go study up on rock and roll. Even Robin thinks this plan is idiotic. You're not gonna get rock just by holding up with some CDs and microfilm for a couple of hours. Believe it or not, though, that is exactly what he does. And only after a few hours of study, suddenly Batman is the greatest musical expert on Earth. We were already straining credibility here, but this is just pushing it way past the goofy meter. First of all, he's freaking Batman! The man is a detective with an incredible mind and capacity for knowledge. He primes himself to be the best at everything, and that includes studying the criminal mind in every way he can to try to anticipate what they'll do. Even if we were to accept this ludicrous premise that Batman thinks rock and roll is inherently evil, that just means he should already know about all of this. He would have studied up the history of rock, all its purveyors and singers and performers, because he would want to know everything he could to combat it. Secondly, come on! He learns all there is to know in just a few hours? You could study music all your life and still never get close to any true meaning of a genre of music, and just studying its history isn't going to do that. Meanwhile, more people are listening to the cry of Crow to rebel and hit the road and somehow find him playing his guitar on some rocks. How'd they know where he was? Why are they such idiots? I don't know, and I frankly don't care. Back to Batman's study of rock and roll. Pigs from a gun! What the funkin' waggle does that mean? Oh, from I Am the Walrus? Why is he randomly quoting... Oh, screw it. While we're recovering from that bit of what the hell, let's talk for a second about why a comic like this is set to fail from the start. Despite what this book said earlier, music is not a visual medium, unless it's a music video. Comic books, on the other hand, are a visual medium. Words and images combine together to create a story. What comic books are not is an auditory medium. Oh sure, there are times when I heard a triumphant song in my head when something badass was happening in a comic, but that's not the same thing as actual sound. We need sound effect words to substitute for that. But this and other comics that feature music try to get around that by just having the lyrics. Well, that's not the same thing! People in this book keep talking about what a great musician Crow is, how his playing is so brilliant and new, but you know what? If I can't hear it, I'm not buying it! All I can see are the lyrics, and they're not really all that impressive. Bottom line, unless you include a freaking CD with songs by this guy along with it, it's just a bunch of nonsense poems to me! Anyway, they figure based on the movements of the crowd that they and Crow are headed for the original home of Not Elvis. We cut to said home, where the assembled dumbasses decide to break in and claim the body of Not Elvis, who's sealed up in a glass case like he was freaking Lenin, for crying out loud. In Europe, the relics of saints are on display to all worshippers. Free! Yeah, and how are those high tax rates in Europe going,
So another riot breaks out, and Batman and Robin leap in to try to stop people from shooting each other. However, someone does shoot a police officer and one of the rioters, but it wasn't from either side. Crow does yell out, though, "I didn't do it!" Yeah, all you did was trash a museum while yelling, "Free! Free!" over and over. Speaking of, yeah, it'd be nice if such things were free, but how the hell do you think they'd pay for simple stuff like, oh, I don't know, standard maintenance and upkeep of those freaking relics? Because really, are we meant to sympathize with anyone here? We won't sympathize with Batman, and I'll show you why in a minute. We don't sympathize with Robin because he's being a naive idiot. And we don't sympathize with Crow, who just spews out pseudo-philosophical ramblings while causing massive destruction and harm to people. But there's still a lot more comic to go, so let's get back to it. Batman leaps down.
Twist and shout, Mr. Crow.
Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout.
Yeah, I'm just gonna dance for a bit to help me forget about this whole thing.
Come on, baby.
So